Hi, my name is Whitney Quinton. I live in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, and I want to share with you today a story about our little girl, Ruby Jo Montana Quinton, who passed away December 4th, 2021, and the story of when we had to say goodbye to her. So at the end of July of 2021, we found out that we were expecting again. So we were pretty excited about this because we had had a horrible miscarriage Thanksgiving weekend in 2018. So we were pretty stoked that my little boy was going to get another chance to be a big brother. We went in for the 12-week ultrasound. Everything was good. And we thought we were all in the clear. Everything came back that any severe abnormalities were out of the picture and we didn't have to worry. So we went in for the 20-week ultrasound, and the scan was taking longer than usual. And at that time we just thought, oh, she's not cooperating with what you guys need. And the ultrasound tech said, I need to go get someone else to help me to scan because I just need to get a few more pictures of her hands and feet. And so we just kind of thought, didn't think anything of it, honestly. And then at the end of the scan, the girl said, okay, we just need you to meet with the radiologist. And I went, oh no. So they took us into a room, and I turned to my husband and I'll be honest, I started swearing. I was so scared and upset. And he goes, Wits, it's gonna be okay. And I immediately said, oh my goodness, what can I handle? How sick is she? And we were already at that point celebrating that we were gonna be having a wedding someday for her and saving money and buying everything pink because all we had was blue. And the radiologist came in and said, hi, my name is Dr. So-and-so. I just want to review the scan of your daughter with you guys. And she said, we found several things wrong. And I said, okay. And she said, so your daughter is missing a kidney. And immediately I went, that's not good. Then she said she has severe abnormalities with her hands and feet and her long bones aren't growing. And I said, okay. I still was, level-headed enough to go and to process it. And I said, okay, so what does all this mean? She said, I don't know what this all means. I booked you an amniocentesis to go and meet with a specialist on Tuesday for them to find out exactly what's going on because I can't put the pieces together. And I kind of started to cry a little bit. And the doctor then said to me, if you're unable to handle this, it's legal to terminate pregnancies up to 24 weeks in Canada. And that's when I fell out of my chair and screamed so loud that I know that multiple floors above me could hear me. My husband caught me and I screamed. I just cried. I could not believe that this woman told me that I was supposed to end my pregnancy. I just was like, how dare you tell me this? We wanted her so bad. We'll take her. We don't care what she looks like, we just want her, And then my husband was crying. She goes, I'll just leave the room if you guys need a minute. Her bedside manner was not great. Anyways, so she leaves for a few minutes and Brett, my spouse, was just crying and I couldn't stop crying because as a mom, you will do anything to protect your baby. You will do anything to keep them safe. And I just could not believe that someone was telling me that I should just end it. And because that's not what I wanted for her. So then after I got my cool down, even though I was still sobbing, she handed me the card with the date and we then let our families know. We text our families within about 2 hours of us getting home and we were still beside ourselves. We could not stop crying. And I had a coworker call me because she hadn't heard from me and she knew that the scan was supposed to be happening and then I called her absolutely beside myself. I was so sad and I just was like, I can't even believe this is happening to me. And then as I pulled up to my house, my neighbor was walking her dog and she could just see that I was wiping tears away from my face as I was walking up to my house and she goes, Whitney, can I help you with something? Are you okay? And I can't ever thank her enough because she just came up to me and hugged me and I just sobbed and I told her everything that was happening and she just said, Whitney, we're here for you for anything that you need. And I said so many bad words to say. I was so upset. I was processing a lot. I was pregnant too. So like the hormones and everything was just really a bad combination. And I can never thank her enough for just being there to just listen to me as I just sobbed and she just hugged me. And so then we went into the house, and then, and believe it or not, a matter of time, I actually had another appointment that day that I had to run to. So I just cried the whole time I was there, and I was going for my annual checkup for the dermatologist. So I met with him, and I was crying, and I was telling him what was up, and he said, Whitney, just be on your way. Everything's good to go. And so I went home. And in the meantime, my sisters had come over to the house, and they had dropped off gifts already. They were at my door so fast to just do such great sisters. And they dropped off blankets and treats and stuff, and they just said, we're here for anything you need. And then I text my friends, and I said, just so you know, when I see you guys on Sunday, it's going to be really rough because we're trying to figure out what's going to happen to our little girl that we've waited so long for. So then we went for the amniocentesis, and they couldn't put the pieces together. They said, all we can tell you is that if we see this much wrong, there's usually a lot more wrong. And the geneticist said in full confidence that it looked like, based on what they saw, she was only missing cleft palate, and they thought it was associated with like a really severe syndrome that was lethal. But they said because cleft palate was missing, they said, we actually can't tell you exactly what she has, but we've been doing this for long enough to know that it looks like she's going to be in pain every minute of her life. And that was really hard to hear, because as a parent, you go, I don't want my kid to be in pain. I want my kid to be happy. I want my kid to go biking. I want my kid to, go play with friends. And I realized that I guess that was not in the cards for her. So after we had more time to process everything, and we then started doing blood work, both Brett and I, finding out like, how did we make this happen? Is this something that I carry? Is this something that he carries? And then we both stayed up day and night sobbing as we were realizing that this is the darkest time of our life. I didn't even know we could cry that much. And because we were just trying to treasure the time that we were carrying her, because we didn't know what was going to happen. Because in our mind, we wanted to bring her home, but the doctors were kind of saying otherwise. But they said, if you want to continue to carry her, we don't know what the quality of her life is going to look like. And I realized at that point that I had to listen to specialists, because this is what they do day in and day out. And if they're telling me that she's going to be very sick, I should probably listen to them. But 2% of me just wanted to not listen to them and say, no, she's ours. And we have a bedroom that we've already renovated for her, and we want to bring her home. So then, after we had not seen my son in almost 2 weeks of going to doctor's appointments and meeting with all types of specialists to tell us about the quality of her hands and feet, and to tell us about the kidney issue and the long bone issue, and I just kind of was like, she's not even here, and I haven't even been home. And I thought, is this what her life is going to be like? Is that we're just never going to be home because we're just going to be taking her to the hospital all the time for constant surgeries? And it was really starting to hit me how much she had already changed our life just in 2 weeks of me just carrying her, and she wasn't even physically here yet. And so then one day I called my doctor, and I just cried and cried on the phone to him. And as I was on my way home from work, he was texting me nonstop for the 2 weeks as we were going through all the appointments. And he finally just said to me one day, he said, Whitney, you don't have to keep doing this. You've been through enough, and she's been through enough. And I said that to my husband when I got home, and Brett said, well, Whitney, the way that things work is that we make a decision and we pray on it. Let's finally make a decision, because at that point we hadn't made a decision. We just were waiting for all the results, but we weren't getting all these results back, and they were coming back unclear. And so that night when we said our prayers, it was a very different prayer. Usually you pray for a miracle, but it was Brett saying in the prayer, Heavenly Father, if our little girl is supposed to come home to you, please let us know how to do that and give us the strength to do it. And I will never forget how strong of a feeling there was that night, how overcome with, I just felt like someone had put a warm blanket on my shoulders, and we just sat there and cried and held each other. Because I said, I wasn't expecting to have to pray about something like that ever in my life. And the next morning we turned to each other, and Brett said, how are you feeling today? And I said, I know what we need to do, and I can do it. And he said, I'm here to support you in any way I can, Whitney. That's what he just said to me all the time. I'm just here to support you and I love you. And so at that point, then we talked about options, about how to do the induction of our little girl. And we decided that we wanted to be with her because I did not just want her taken out in pieces. I just wanted to have her and hold her and sing to her. And I just thought, if this is the only time I get with her, then that's what I want. So I then took the medication a few days later to induce me, and I have never been so sick in my entire life. And I swear angels helped me keep those pills down. I was so sick. And I went to bed that night and I couldn't believe what I actually had to do the next day. I just still was in awe that the next day our little girl was going to be dead at the hospital. I just still could not believe that that's what I was going to do. So we went to the hospital the next morning and I had to take another pill, my last one, and I was the sickest I had ever been in my life. I said to my husband, I said, if I die, just know that I love you, because it was worse than any stomach bug I'd ever had in my entire life, like 500 times worse. And the nurse said when I got there, how long have you kept this pill down? I said, well, I only took it 30 minutes before I left. And she said, well, you need to keep it down a lot longer than that for it to do its job. And I said, oh my gosh, I can't even believe this is real. So then I kept it down for another 30 minutes or 45 minutes. And then she came in and said, you're allowed to throw up now. And I just vomited like 7 times. I was so sick. And then the anesthesiologist came in, gave me my epidural, and I went to sleep because I had been through enough. I thought I could use a nap. I haven't slept in almost 3 weeks. And so when I woke up from my nap, the nurse said, let's just check you to see if you have any bleeding or anything. And she came and I lifted up my nightgown and she said, oh no, Whitney, this is sometimes how it happens. And I said, what happens? Then they went and got the doctor and came in and they said, Whitney, your daughter's here. And then they said, time of death. And I turned to my husband and I said, what did we just do? I'm like, we're the worst parents in the entire world. Why did we just do this to her? And he grabbed my hand and he said, Whitney, it's okay. You did it. She's already home and she's perfect and she's with our family and she's not in pain anymore. And I'm so proud of you and I love you. And then the guilt was gone immediately after he talked to me, because I knew that she was already in a way better place and that I had done the best thing for her by relieving her of everything that she was suffering with. And then we got to hold her for about 4.5 hours and sing to her and kiss her and tell her that we love her, and we knew that she was already happy, because she wasn't happy with us because she was so gravely ill. Fast forward 2 weeks later, we got the autopsy back that showed that my body was just palliative care for her and that she was never going to come home with us. Her heart was underdeveloped and that she was actually suffering from a condition that is lethal to all boys because it's double X-linked, and there's only been 200 cases worldwide of it ever reported. And so we tell ourselves, once we found out how bad it was, and I told a few coworkers what she had because they knew kind of a little bit about the syndrome. They had learned about it in dental school. And my coworker said, you only see pictures like that in school and you think, oh my gosh, I hope no one ever has a syndrome that severe. And then I said, well, she had it. And so at the end of the day, we were very grateful that even though we didn't know what she had and it was basically left in our hands to decide what to do, that the miracle was at the end of the day that she was never going to come home with us and that we saved her from everything that she could have suffered with, and that someday, I know when I see her again, she's going to thank me and she's going to thank her dad, and she's doing great things. And we can't wait to be with her again someday.